And I think we are live. Isn't that exciting? Hello, Mark.
Matty,
Hello,
appreciate you having
everybody
me,
in the
sir.
chat. How's it going? So we need to wait a moment. Oh, yeah, now I can see that we're live. And I hear myself twice. Hello, folks. So it's good to be here. How's everybody doing? Do you guys want to leave a quick comment telling us where you're watching from? Would be nice to know. And I guess we can just start. I don't have any smart introductory things to say.
Hmm.
Perhaps at the beginning we should talk just a little bit about ourselves, because who doesn't like to hear other people talking about themselves? Just so you know, like, who do you have in front of you, right? Like, I think we all put legs on our legs on one pants at a time. So that's why I dug up this nice webcomic. Like, why are we in a position to give you advice, or are we even here to give you advice? So my name's Matt. First of all, I am a solopreneur, and I believe, Mark, you are as well. Like, you don't have employees, do you? You
Not
never did.
currently now.
No, right?
Yeah.
And we've been working in the WordPress world for a different number of years. We're building websites for small to medium-sized clients, like dentists and or like a small hotel and stuff like that. And it's going well enough for us to sustain ourselves. Although, yeah, Mark, you've also branched out into different things. Mark is becoming a really awesome YouTuber inside our space, in the WordPress space, talking about daily events and also sharing advice, sharing thoughts and ideas. So do check out his channel. It's in the description.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, that's kind of where we are. Mark, do you want to follow up on that? Just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Matty, thank you for having me here. Appreciate that, man. I'm excited to have this chat. Yeah, I mean, I started with WordPress, kind of like discovered it in 2017, 2018 for myself. I went through the whole, shtick of like, kind of like themes and then finding a page builder. At that time was Elementor. And then I had an agency that was kind of a side hustle, really went like kind of, I would say like full time, and left my job, my 9 to 5 job right before COVID. So really just that whole time, that whole period since 2017, 2018, I've just been constantly trying to learn more and more things about WordPress, building websites, digital marketing. And then not too long ago, as Maddie mentioned, about like a year and a half ago, I really kind of transitioned into Bricks, transitioned into the WordPress community more. And that's just opened up a whole new world of connections and like knowledge that I need to understand and all sorts of stuff. So now I'm still building websites for, clients at the agency, but also I'm doing other stuff like educating and trying to build a community, things like that. So yeah, excited to have this chat because this is something that everyone in our community I think needs to know about, trying to sell and close deals and such.
Yeah, I see we have a couple of comments. So we have people from Hamburg here. We have my good friend Marco. He's from the Saarland. We have George Nicolau. I've seen you before, man. Like, I've seen you around. You're in Kevin's strings in the audience a lot. I believe I would guess you're from Greece. I don't. I might be totally wrong. I might just be exposing my own blindness here. But yeah. I also, by the way, I just noticed that EVMux is not bringing in the comments. So
I thought that was just me, so I'm glad that's not just me.
really,
Nice.
okay. So yeah, great. Well, we're
I can,
gonna
I
we're gonna.
can, I have the chat up though. We're good.
That's it. Yeah, exactly. We're gonna respond to you guys on YouTube. I was originally inspired to talk about this, actually, what we're about to see now, by watching a live stream that Mark did last, I don't know, March, April, something like that. So give or take a year ago. And you talked about pretty much the same subject, right? Cyprus. Yeah, that's close enough. Thanks, George. Oh yeah, by the way, I made this really nice banner. Check out my banner. Hang on. Here. Yeah. So awesome.
Look at that.
So yeah, we've got a webcomic and a banner. And now I lost my train of thought.
I was just talking about like that stream
Exactly
that I did.
how I watched your stream, and you were talking about how you kind of get clients, and also, but most importantly, how you go through the sales process, to the project process, and what kind of tools you're using as well, which is a part that today like actually using tools is one thing that we're not going to look into as much. I have one tool that I'm about to show you, but I think Mark is going to be able to do a little bit more. But the question I want to get to is, where in the process are we, when are we meeting each other here? And it's not as much about getting leads in the first place, about lead generation, but it's more about, we already have the lead. We're at a point where they're interested, and we're sitting down with them for the first time for a sales conversation or just a meet and greet, and we walk them through what the process is going to be, what the project is going to be, and how much they're eventually going to have to pay for it. So at that point, I'm going to drop a little bit of Kevin knowledge here first before we go into my awesome tool. We've already done the pre-screening, or doesn't Kevin have a word for that, where he kind of drops a range?
Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know
know
if
if he has one specifically. Just like kind of, I feel like it's client vetting almost, or just like
it's
making sure
sort
that
of,
they,
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
it might be a specific word.
It's like a magic sentence where you just say, based on previous experience, the kind of website you need is going to cost between X and Y amount. And it should be a large enough range. So you could say it's going to cost you between 4 and 6K, right? Because you've done projects before, or you've done the math, you've looked at the website that they want to have built or rebuilt or whatnot, and you tell them this. And that's one of the first things you do before you even dive in and spend hours like trying to work out the details or having a long call with them, because that kind of pre-screens them. And if they get a heart attack and run away, then you know, okay, that was the kind of client, and you're going to get to gauge, is this going to be a fit right off the bat. So that's already happened at this point, and now we're sitting down with the client, and I'm going to bring up my wonderful tool. So I'm old school, which is another way of saying I haven't spent enough time yet looking into better tools. But what I'm doing is I'm using an Excel sheet, or in this case a Google sheet, to go through my whole process. And this helps me in two ways. First of all, when I'm sitting down with the client and I'm talking with them about the process, now there's a couple price bracketing. Thank you, Marco. Awesome. Pink elephant. Thanks, Toby. Very good. We are sitting down with the client, and at this point in the process, or in the sales conversation, I've already talked to them about, or listen to them mostly, really, like what kind of things do you need? Do you want to rebuild your website or whatnot? And sort of taking notes. Okay, they need a blog, they need membership, members only area, and calendar or whatnot. And it's before the point where we really get into price discussions a little bit deeper than here's the bracketing, here's the bracket, here's the span. And I bring up this thing and I tell them, listen, I'm just going to take 5 minutes. And today it's going to be more than 5 minutes. But for the client, obviously, you don't want to run them through this whole thing, because it's not the point is not to kind of overwhelm them with every little detail of how a website is built. But what I want to do here is educate this lead on what a website costs and what kind of, how much work it is to actually make one, so they understand why it's not 700 euros, and they also understand why, if somebody charges you 700 euros, you may want to take another look and sort of become a little bit skeptical. So this is how I do my projects, and they have three phases. The first phase is discovery. Then the second phase is implementation, which has a couple of sub phases, and then the third phase is the launch. And that's what I go through with my clients. You can also say, like, discovery, this is where conception happens, planning, strategy, just setting up how the whole project is going to work. So the first thing I do here is qualification. And then it's the first meeting, right? You just sit down with it. Let me just delete this shit here for a second. You sit down with the client, which usually I tell the client, this is what we're doing as we speak. Then the project preparations, initiate project management and tasks. So you can see, like, even stuff that where you were like, you might be wondering, really, do I need to charge the client for that? Yes, I think you do, because it's part of the process, right? Like sitting down, setting up ClickUp for it, or whatever project management software you're using, and just making the quote is obviously part of the thing, and you need to kind of decide how much time is that going to take you? So I have these columns here that say hours, and then there's an options column. So when I prepare a project, for myself, I write down how many hours this is going to take. But this obviously this happens after the sales call. So before the sales call, I just go through that with the client, and these numbers that I have in here, you're seeing my bare template. So I put some default numbers in here, just because some of these things, they always take the same amount of time, give or take. So I have the numbers in there already, and that way it makes it easier for me to just fill this up, right? Why do I have an options column? If I set up if I do a market analysis, right, it could be that the client says, yeah, we just at this point we just want to rebuild our website, or we're already established, we have a good stock of clients, like we have enough clients already, and of course we still want to get more clients, but it's not the number one priority. So I could say, hey, I'm going to do a market analysis, but at this point in the project, it's more about just rebuilding a website without losing SEO ranking. But it's not yet, we're not doing a deeper analysis of the market to find out what you could do to expand your reach, or to rank better in search engines. So I could say, hey, I'm going to invest an hour, but I'm going to put an option in here and say another 6 hours would be necessary if I wanted to really take a deeper look at how they're going to rank beyond their town, for instance. Keywords and SEO concept. So some of the stuff is in German, never mind. I mean, these notes here are just notes I take for myself. If there's anything significant here, then obviously I'm going to translate it for you guys now on the fly. Keywords and SEO concept. Wait, let's go back a little bit. Domain and hosting is part of the discovery phase as far as I'm concerned. We figure out if they still have a domain, or if they don't, if hosting needs to be purchased. In case they don't, I just go, that doesn't apply, right? And then I have a bunch of conditional formatting here that grays that out. Email and mailboxes, same thing. Do they need that? Yes or no. Development environment, I install WordPress on a staging, or perhaps the live environment. If it's a brand new website, I may as well just build it on the live development and no index it. Data consolidation, that's an important part as far as I'm concerned. So actually, that's also something. A lot of the knowledge that is in here comes from Kevin Geary, but also I've had a whole bunch of mentors before that I kind of learned this as I went, and then but also from people who were already very well established as freelancers and self-employed people, and so I've learned a lot from that. But this data consolidation specifically comes from my time working as a journalist. Like, that's all you do as a journalist. You sit down with the people that you write about, or you'd really look at the events that you're supposed to write about, and you take in all the data, the information that you can get. And obviously that needs to happen for a website. How are you going to build a website if you don't really know the client and their business and their market and all that stuff really well? So you have a goal discovery, you have data assessment, you do interviews. Data assessment means if they send me in a bunch of materials, like we have these images, we have these texts that are already prepared, I need to assess them. I need to look through them and decide, are they already good for publishing on a website, or do I still need to work on them and whatnot? Let me take a quick moment here. Okay, nothing in the chat. If you guys have questions, don't hesitate. Mark, if you have questions, don't hesitate to interrupt me.
Absolutely.
Yep. Then the keywords and SEO concept. Determine key search terms and SEO strategies. So figure out what kind of strategy we need if we want to do SEO right away. Website architecture, work out and visualize page. So that's basically, it's one step before the wireframe, or two steps before the wireframe. The architecture is actually, let me bring that up on a different screen. I figured it takes so long. So I make a flowchart where I show, hey, this is going to be how the website is going to look, right? Like how it's going to be built. I might as well. Hang on a second. Figma.com. So I'm using, speaking of tools, so I do have some tools. I'm using FigJam for that. I'm going to find one.
I got a question for you, Matty, while you pull that up.
Yeah, go.
or just a thought rather. My assumption is that some people kind of like watching now or on the replay might want, like you've put in a lot of time, and we'll talk about this extensively as you continue to go through this list because we talked about this offline. But I think people would really benefit from, and I'm not sure this is something we didn't talk about, but I think people might really benefit from getting like the template of this. Obviously, like removing any data that you don't need in there. But
Hmm.
I think you've put in a ton of work. If that's something you're willing to share, maybe it, even afterwards, might be something cool to throw in the
Yeah.
description or what have you. Because there's just again, like you said, you've compiled this from years and years of knowledge from different people and different like literal experience as well.
Hmm.
And I'm excited to talk about it more, but I think there's probably a lot of value here that people would be interested in.
Yeah, I'm kind of expecting that people might ask that, and I honestly don't mind. Like none of this knowledge, I don't own any of this knowledge. It's freely available, and I really don't mind making this available for you guys. So I'm just gonna share a link to the Google Doc, and then what you can do is just you make your own copy, and then you do whatever you want with it. That's totally cool. So I have this. Right. So this is for instance a diagram of of a website structure, right? So I tell them, hey, your website's gonna have a front page, and it's gonna have the following sections like intro, hero. Yeah, exactly. That was the word I was looking for. And then all the way down to the CTA. Then we're gonna have these pages on your website, and they're gonna be structured as this, and that's basically the part of where I make a diagram, right? Let me just, while I am in Figma, I might as well open something more. Wireframe. So mood boards, depending, like sometimes I do mood boards, sometimes I don't. I can show you one where I did mood boards. So I'm sure everybody knows what a mood board is, but I'm still going to talk about it. So for this one, this was quite interesting. So this was for a dentist website, and I just looked around for other dentist websites, right? And I found that this guy has a really nice thing where sort of the dentist's logo is behind him. I figured that might be a nice element to have on the website. Then we have photos in the background with an overlay here as well, right? Then I was out in Frankfurt, and I was eating, and I saw this flyer, and I liked this kind of frame here. So I just took notes, I took photos, and I slammed all of that into Figma, into this mood board. Like for instance, here the bad boys thing. I like how the images are coming through the text right behind it. So I thought, hey, that might be a nice feature for building the website. And then if you look at the actual layout, you can see that that's what I did, right? You can see the text coming through here, right? You can see how I used the rounded corners, but not on all sides, but only on opposing sides, right? That came from that flyer. You have the images in the background here, right? So, and that's not her, but it's somebody, like, just to show how you can build that website. And that's all material. First of all, those are all the deliverables, but also if you show this to potential clients, obviously you need to get permission from your previous clients to show that kind of stuff, but which obviously I don't have here, right? And then you can, first of all, you can gain more trust. You can be like, hey, we're going to make a mood board for you. This is part of the process. So we can we collect ideas, how to present the information you have. And obviously reading the information first, that's why data analysis, data consolidation comes first, is if I know what kind of material I already have or what we're going for, then I can allow that to guide me in making these mood boards. Then we do a UX design / wireframe, which you could use Kevin's frames for that. You could just build them from scratch in Figma as well. I don't know if I have a wireframe ready off the top of my head. Yeah, no. But it's a wireframe. Yeah, I'm sure everybody here knows what that is. Then we have the strategy meeting. And for strategy meeting, I do put a number of meetings into the plan, not because there's going to be a rigid, now we have this meeting type of thing, but just to have a couple of them in here and just have a couple of hours reserved for the most important meetings. Obviously, nothing's stopping me or the client from having a meeting somewhere in between, more meetings, less meetings, but just to have sort of the cornerstones in here and also have the numbers in here, that probably helps. So this is the whole of phase one. I'm going to take a moment here and see if you guys have questions about that or any feedback. Let me see. I need to bring this over to the other screen. Look at the chat. Oh yeah, a little bit. So what do you have here? Mohammed, is there any way for you to share your file with us? Yeah, okay, gotcha. Have your sheet and adjust according to how I work. Yeah, so we talked about that. I'm happy to do that. It's going to be in the description. I'm also going to post it in the comments later. Apart from that, if you guys have questions, well, it doesn't seem like you do at the moment, so we might as well continue. And let me bring this up full screen again. So phase two implementation is basically where the client leans back and sips a pina colada while I do the work. So we start with the corporate identity, visual design language, symbolism, colors, fonts. Obviously, it might be that the client already has all this, right? Like one of my clients that I'm currently working with, they did all the legwork. Like they came in with, they had they had hired a design agency before me, and they came up with a logo and colors, fonts, all of that stuff is already prepared. So that was really nice. And I actually looked up the design agency, looked up what they did because I really thought their deliverables were fantastic. Like that was quality work. And then I saw an ad campaign that it's being run throughout my state in the Saarland where I live here. So I was like, okay, they got some heavy hitters for that. But it might also be that I do that or somebody from my professional network does that, right? Like you might know web design, what do you call it, a graphics designer, right? You might know somebody that you can bring in on your project to do that for you. Like for instance, I'm not good at using Adobe Illustrator to create vector graphics. Like that's not what I do. Like I've built or I've made some word marks in my time. I've made some logos in my time. But of course, we all got to recognize where our strengths are. And the same way, I'm going to bring in an SEO agency if it gets really intense, or an SEO expert with the SEO beyond. Hey, I want to be the number one dentist in my 40,000 people town. Then I bring in experts there, and the same way I'm going to bring in experts in corporate identity. Copywriting and media, on the other hand, since I have all that background in journalism, this is my forte. So I'm the guy that does that. For instance, here I just wrote down the client delivers the content, but what I do is text editing and copywriting for all these pages, right? Because they know how to write down what they do, and I know how to turn it into copy that sells, copy that works, copy that fits onto a website and triggers the right emotions and makes people want to read and continue reading and eventually click on the CTA. So that's my job. And it's also obviously sometimes that can be almost as much work as just writing the text yourself, right? So we need to put in hours for that. We do UI design. This is basically where I take the wireframe, the wireframe just being like gray and black boxes and placeholder text on a Figma frame, and we turn it into actual nice design, right? Discussion and feedback. Yeah, is discussion and feedback. Then so that's design and content. Then what I do is I build a web desktop version first. So I do the theme configuration. So in Bricks, which is my builder, I do the header footer bars, buttons, colors, fonts, menus, etc. I just set all that stuff up. So that I can then do the build. I'm using ACSS, so I can just put in the colors and generate the different shades and all that, whatever we need to actually build a website. Then I build the front page, which usually takes about 3 hours. I know that already. And then all other contents. And then, of course, it depends on, like, if the client wants us to do 17 pages, then it's going to be more hours, right? And so I put in the hours for that. Metadata, snippets, open graph. Very important to do open graph. Like I see missing open graph images and tags more often than I like, right? I think we can even give an example. What was that cafe website we talked about, Mark?
I'm not sure of
We're not going
the
to go
actual
into
URL.
details what cafe, but I think I can dig it up in no time. Hang on.
might be able to see it as well. Hang on one sec.
I want to show that. I want to show Open Graph.
It's Laperouse.nf.
Laperouse.
Laperouse. Laperouse.
Laperouse.nl, right?
NF, I think.
NF?
Well, it's what it says here.
.nf. Okay. Yeah, wonderful. Okay. On Norfolk Island. So I go to Facebook and I try to share it. Hang on. I do that on the other screen.
Have you ever related topic? Have you ever just typed in like Open Graph Checker, or like there's one for Facebook specifically? It's
Facebook
actually
debugger.
might be. Yeah, that's really good because like I think you can actually regenerate it if like you've changed it, so you could force Facebook to scrape it again.
Yeah,
with
we
that.
definitely
So
need
that's
to look
another.
at that.
Yeah, just another
bring
random
it up.
thing. If you guys are logged into Facebook, just type in Facebook debugger and you
Okay.
kind of do
So
the same
it seems
thing.
like he's been doing his homework because like last time I tried to share it, then it well, still it's not ideal because it on your Open Graph image, this is the Open Graph image. So right, like wherever you share, like on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Zing, whatever, right? It's gonna pull in that Open Graph data. So it's gonna have a title, a description, just like metadata on Google, whatever the fuck they're all called, and it's gonna bring in this image, right? And the Open Graph image needs to have some. You need to follow a bunch of guidelines to make sure that it's compatible with everything. For instance, if I share it on WhatsApp, then it's going to be cropped to square, right? So I want to make sure that if I put branding information on my image, let me just do that with brandartery.com. Hang on. There. Come on. Yeah, right. So it like even if it gets cropped here, right, and there, then the important stuff is still going to be visible because who cares about my shitty face? And yeah, so you want to have that prepared, right? And it's also like clients don't know these kinds of things. They're just like, yeah, he's going to build me a website, but they don't understand that this is part of it, right? Like you don't buy a car and just leave, like, and it's like, it doesn't need a hood on the engine. Who needs that, right? Like, so you want to have an Open Graph image. And again, I often see people just neglecting that. Internal and external linking, which is important for SEO, right? Like I've made it a habit to just go, like, after I put all the content onto the pages, I made it a habit to go over the pages and look at, hey, can I still put any inline links in the text to, I don't know, an article, a newspaper article, or a scientific article about the dentist's dental thing that they're doing, for people to do more reading, right? Or of course, can I link internally to any other useful pages on the website? And I do that. Local citations. So I sit down with the client, we do a review, and I tell them, hey, are you on any sort of portals or platforms that are relevant to your industry? Like, for instance, if you're a hotel, are you on TripAdvisor? Or in Germany, we have this doctors thing called Yameda, where you find all the different doctors. I think it's specifically for dentists. No, I think it's for everything. Anyway, right? Like you kind of want to talk to them about that and tell them, hey, having a website is one thing, but like, what about your Google business profile? What about all the other portals that you could be on that are relevant for your industry? So yeah, then 2.2. So sub phase 2.2 of phase 2 is mobile design, legal matters, and technology. So I do responsive design for the contents, I do responsive design for the theme, and I do legal documents, GDPR shit, cookie policy and banner. I use compliance for that. Really nice plugin. It's free. I set up a 404 page, which is so, I mean, if you have a blueprint, which you should, a WordPress blueprint, you just put your 404 page in there once, and then you put a bunch of funny text on it, and then you change it around a little. I mean, few clients really want a fancy incredible 404 page. It just needs to be user friendly so that somebody who lands on a 404 gets what they or something they could be looking for. Custom solutions, forum, live chat, blog calendar, forums, SMTP. Well, I don't know why I still have that, because SMTP is definitely a core thing. Let's get rid of that. So if the client needs anything special, right? And mind you, we're still talking about small to medium sized businesses here. I mean, obviously, if you were building, I don't know, like a car dealership's website where the car dealership is across the US, like you're rebuilding the sixth website, then custom solutions is probably the biggest part. Right? Then you kind of need to break that down a little bit further. But let's say they just want to have a live chat thing implemented, right? Then I can say, okay, I'm going to do that for you, and it's going to be this many hours. And then if local citation, if during this conversation it came out that we realized that there's a bunch of portals that we should be on, then I can do that for them, right? I can be like, I can sit down, we could do a workshop. I come to their office and we sit down and we hook them up with profiles on 3 or 4 thingamabobs. So they're on that. Then the RC meeting. So I decide, hey, this website is ready for prime time. And I sit down with the client, or I send it to them and I'm like, hey, here, take a look. Let me know if there's any last minute stuff you want me to change about it. And if not, I'm just going to go live that way. And if there's a punch list, there's a punch list, then we're going to do that. Then translations could be, right? I'm in Europe. So for all you Americans, it's the part outside of the borders of the United States. So I'm there, and if translations are necessary, then that's what I do. Launch meeting, it's just we sit down with the client once more, and it's like, hey, any A-class bugs left here? No, okay, fine, we'll go live. And then again, I also explain to the client during the first meeting that phase 3 launch is not just, hey, we flipped the switch. We all know that that's not that easy, right? There's more that needs to happen for a website to go live. Let me just real quick look at what people have been saying. George, you have a funny situation. Design agency, she chose the theme from Theme Forest, the person that did the brand guide. So now nothing fits. I'm just looking at the screen. Nothing clicks in my brain. Oh, man. Okay. Whatever questions. Hey, Max. Nice to see you, man. Whatever questions you guys have, like if anything is specific, if there's anything specific that I can go deeper into, do let me know. Marcus, nice to see you, man. Memo to me, I have to pay more attention to my hours, which I really work for the client. Such a tool helps with this. Yeah, that's why I came up with this, because we all know that situation where in the end we just look at the hours and click up and we're like, oh fuck, we're 20 hours above budget. And then we didn't tell the client in time, or we don't even know why we're 20 hours above budget. Is it our fault? Is it the client's fault? So we can't really tell them, hey, this is you're gonna pay for this. So this helps us kind of keep a little bit more control of this, right? So this is the launch phase. First of all, we do a domain and email transfer, domains, contents, emails to new hosting provider, if applicable, right? I just actually right now I have a case of where they're with a hosting company called Dogado, and I built the website on NetCup, which is the hosting company that I have all my shit on, and on NetCup everything was nice and fast, and then I moved it to Dogado, and now I'm adding a bunch of pages to it, and it's excruciatingly slow. Like every mouse click takes like 6 or 7 times as long as it does on NetCup. And now I'm sort of going back and forth with that hosting company, Dogado, telling them, look, guys, your hosting is shit. I don't know how else to tell you this, but it's just not good. And they're like, yeah, look at the plugins you have on your website. And like they give me all the usual bullshit runaround. So actually today I recorded a video. I went ahead, I actually I cloned the website in the video. Like I show them, I'm now cloning the website. I'm putting it on NetCup. Now we do the same thing in this tab, and then we do the same thing in that tab. It takes 1 minute 15 in this tab. It takes 2 minutes and 15 in this tab. Your hosting is shit. Anyway, I'm going through this right now, and still hosting pisses me off. But and you don't need to, at least here in Germany. I know this kind of different in the States, or like the time I spent in Canada. I was with SiteGround, which they do provide great hosting, but they're also pretty expensive when you compare it to Netcup, for instance. If you just want to have the cheapest Netcup account, the cheapest plan costs €2 14 a month, and it's just fast, you know. And the most expensive one costs 10, which is what I have, and it's just really really fast. So there's no reason to have bad hosting, and it's shared hosting. It's not like you're renting a server or anything like that. Go live, transfer from dev environment to live environment. If applicable, if it's an old website that is being relaunched, you do the redirects, you set up the licenses again. Oh yeah, housekeeping, I missed that. Tidy up and sort out backend posts, media, users, plugins. That's the other thing. Like, we've all taken on websites, right, from other people, and you look through that and you're like, oh fuck, they just littered in there. They just left everything lying around. They installed a plugin in 1875 and it's just still there, and it's not even deactivated. Nobody needs it. They were just tinkering around with it for 5 minutes, and then they were like, not the right one, and it's just there, right? And then you have test pages that they made at some point, and they've been in Google's index for 4 years now, and yeah, I that's not going to happen, right? So I have a housekeeping task here where I just make sure I go through everything with a fine tooth comb, and I throw out the trash. It's like when somebody builds you a house, you don't want to, by the time you move in, you don't want to have all the equipment and empty paint buckets and stuff still standing around, right? So it's your job to do that. It's my job to do that for the client. SSL, which usually, I mean, we live in a time where SSL is just a matter of course. Although I think it's Host Europe. There's another one of those hosting companies where, like, every year you need to manually go in and renew the SSL certificate because they don't do it for you. So every now and again, I have clients saying my website is broken, and I go in and it's just the SSL thing is not has expired. Security, firewall, spam, login protection. I just use all-in-one WP security for that. But on top of that, I put a bunch of stuff in the htaccess file. Like, I have HTTP security headers, which actually, that might be nice for you guys to know. Like, not everybody's aware of that. Go to securityheaders.com. Let's see. Let's use this one, for instance. Yeah. So you want to get this, and it's just stuff that you put into your htaccess to make sure that you send out certain directives on what servers are allowed to do, or like crawlers are allowed to do on your website, visitors are allowed to do, how they're supposed to interact with the website. And it can be more or less secure, right? So yeah. There. Email deliverability, set up DNS records and SMTP service, postmark. I actually just got myself an account at Bravo in Germany, which used to be Sendinblue. And it's one of those, it's like MailChimp, right? It's just one of those newsletter delivery services. And they offer an SMTP server that you can just use for delivering emails from the website to just out, right? And then you use admin and site enhancements. So you don't even need a special plugin for that. You just use admin and site enhancements, which gives you a shitload of functionality that other plugins also give you. And you have an SMTP thing in there where you can set up Bravo servers, and then your email deliverability is no longer a problem. Then I do a whole lot of quality assurance. I just double check that GDPR and privacy things are set up. Then on page SEO, I go through the whole rank math config step by step, look at everything, look at my robots.txt, do an SEO audit, which rank math gives you, right? Make sure that the website that you unflick that switch, no index, which we've all learned the hard way. Then web analytics, I use Matomo because it's like, if anytime I go into Google Analytics or Google Ads or stuff like that, I just feel like an English graduate in a 747 cockpit. I'm like, fuck, I have no idea what's going on here. So I'll leave that to experts. So if the client wants all that, then I bring somebody in. Otherwise, if they just want basic tracking, I just use GSC and Matomo. Performance and functionality, page speed optimization, fav icons. I do tell my clients, hey, do you know what a fav icon is? Because they don't. And again, it's like, leaving the hood off your car. You kind of want to cross the T's and dot the I's, right? And just having a fav icon in there is part of that. WP config, one round of quality assurance. That's where I just go through the entire front end and I look at, did I really put all the links on the buttons? Does the form work? Are the slugs okay? Or does the slug still say about us -test, right? Like, because I had that at some point. And are the links there? Do the forms work, etc. Release to search engines. Then, of course, all of these check marks all of these things are checked. Then I go to GSC and I tell it, hey, I'm here. And for GSC, this is interesting. Let me see how I can quickly show this. It's also something I learned the hard way, so I'm going to share it. Hang on. Meanwhile, let's see what people are saying. Hello from Berlin. Max, hello. It would be cool if you could share how much time you spend on average building different kinds of sites, anything from a single one-pager to a complicated setup with lots of CPTs, complexity, etc. True, that would be good. So I'm still able sometimes to build something in under 30 hours, 25 perhaps, but usually not less than that. Unless it's like, I have one website now where it was built on something that is, she has a bunch of plugins in there that she needs for the site to run, and they need PHP 5.x. So she has a website that sooner rather than later is just going to go tits up. And I told her, hey, I'm just going to rebuild it exactly like it is. It's not going to change anything about the way it looks. I'm just going to rebuild it. And that's probably going to take less time than that. Like, I don't know, probably I'll be done in 10, 15 hours. But that's it. And then the longest I've taken, this one here. This one really took a long time. Lacane.de, which is a partnership committee. So Königstein is my hometown in Germany, and they have a partnership with a city in France. And it's just this, they go back a long time, right? I think they just celebrate their 50th anniversary. And if you go, they have this whole archive where I just repurposed the old website. I just did a whole bunch of CSS to remove the menus and all that stuff. And then you can go back here to all the way to 1999, right? So there's this gigantic archives, like 10 gigabytes of data that you can browse through here. And then they have a calendar. They have a blog with a shitload of blog entries that I brought over from the old website. And that, I'm not going to lie, I don't know exactly how long that took, but easily 60 hours, perhaps, something like that. So that kind of would answer your question. You're also asking about, Webfar is also asking about e-commerce. I've never touched e-commerce in my life. It's just that. And if I can avoid it, I mean, the most I've done is just have a contact form where it's like, hey, do you want this? Do you want this service? Write me a message. And then my client takes it from there with their clients. Mark, do you have questions? Any thoughts?
No, honestly, I think this is, I'm excited to hear kind of how, I mean, I took some notes, obviously, as we went through this, and I know we had the offline discussion. I think that, kind of some of my big things as you kind of, I'm sure you're going to illustrate kind of how you bring all this together now that you kind of go through it, right? Because like, let's go back for a moment, and then we can.
Yeah.
So you right now, to set the scene again, you've already had the client, you've already had like maybe like a little bit of initial talk or whatever. You come into this tool effectively after you're asking all the questions, and you're kind of like creating your quote, so to speak, based off of what you believe they're going to need, based off of your discovery. So then you've created all this, or we've gone through all these and you've entered a bunch of values, or we have the test values in there. So then from there, kind of just what happens next? Like, do you create the quote, you go through, you show the numbers, create the quote, and then shoot it back to them? What's the rest of the process look like?
Yeah. Well, that's the next part of the talk. So we're definitely getting to that. And that's actually also part of this tool. So yeah. Let's look at the Google Search Console. So this is just for my own website. Let's bring it over here. And you see, hey, I even have traffic. Look at that.
Look at that.
If I want to index something, like I actually with my quick disclosure. So what I do is I have my own little agency, brianartery.com, but I also work full time with another advertising agency, and obviously all above board. I'm good friends with my boss; he's an awesome guy, and then I just do my own work on the side, and most of the work I do every day is for the actual agency that I work for. So, and that's where one of my colleagues found out at some point, hey, this website that we built half a year ago is still not indexed. And it didn't really matter for that website because it was really not about indexing. This person just wanted to have a website to so she could give like business cards to people that came into her place. But still, obviously, we were like, why the fuck is it not online? So we looked at it and we were like, yeah, we did put in the sitemap into Google's Search Console, and we did everything right. And then we resubmitted the sitemap. We waited, and it still wouldn't be indexed. It just Google didn't do it. So in the end, what we did is we inspected a URL, and then it told us, yeah, this is not on Google. And instead of clicking request indexing, because even that didn't work, we clicked on test live URL. Then Google checks, can this be indexed? And it's going to tell you, hopefully, yes, everything's hunky dory. You can do that. And then you click on the request indexing, and then it happens the next fucking day. Like it took us about like a week of tinkering, or even more than that, to figure that out. But if you really want to make sure that this shit gets indexed, and like I do that at least for the front page and for a bunch of pillars, I do it this way, right? Click on request indexing and then wait for a day or two, and then just look at the index. And then, of course, most of you know that, right? But you can use the operator site colon and then brandartery.com, and then you can see what's in Google's index, right? And then if you see also, like, if your front page is somewhere on page 2, it's indexed, but it's not on page 1. That's another thing where you can be like, it's an indicator that something's kind of off, and you want to double check what's going on there. Yeah. So that's that. So I'm bringing this up again. Even like EVMAX even tells me there's like 0 people watching, and it's still not pulling in the comments.
That's wild.
It's just like, remind me, what was the one you're using?
Restream.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I think my renewal is coming up, so perhaps I'm just gonna switch. I don't know. Because it's given us some other trouble at some point in the past as well. Okay. Anyway, so we've got 10 people watching. Wonderful. Thanks, guys. Max wrote something. The longest build I undertook was a WooCommerce project for a fashion designer client who was very opinionated and wanted to basically resemble Shopify. Oh my God. It required extensive customization and tweaks. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, that does sound painful. All right. Release the search engine tool assisted as is analysis. I'm actually, at some point when I get around to it, I'm going to make a separate video about this, because in my bookmarks, I have a folder that has like 25 tools in it. And when I finish a website, I open that folder and I just open all the links in that folder. And so I have 25 tabs open, and then I just put the website into each of these tools and I just let it run. And there's like, they test the carbon footprint of the website. They test, is the website properly SEO optimized? Like, are there any problems with meta tags and whatnot? Then there's the security headers thing that I showed you earlier. There's actually, let's just look at what I have in there. And yeah, I think that's worth another video at some point. Tools, it's analysis tools. Search SEO, Pingnum, built with GDPR stuff. The Facebook debugger, yeah, that's important. There's also, like, for LinkedIn, there's the post inspector. So let's look at the debugger real quick. So if I want to make sure that when somebody shares a site on Facebook, that it's properly pulled in, I go to the Facebook debugger. You can just Google that, and it's gonna be the first result. And then it looks at looks at the website, and oh yeah, FB app ID. Okay, yeah, I might as well look into that. And then it tells you, hey, this is your open graph image, this is your stuff, right? And it not only gives you shows you what if all your data is correct, but also at that point it scrapes it and just puts it into Facebook's index, right? And that's what you said, Mark. If ever you change something about a website, then you want to go to Facebook debugger and just scrape it again, right? Click that.
Yep.
And then you can see this hasn't been scraped in a while, right? So perhaps if I scrape it again. Yeah,
I think
that's
LinkedIn has one as well.
LinkedIn has one. It's called Post Inspector. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then carbon neutrality, favicon checker. Real favicon is also a really nice thing because it generates favicons not just for, not just a favicon, but also for the touch icon for iOS, right? This stuff for Android. So you might want to bookmark that as well. But again, yeah, probably I'll do a video about this at some point. Then Google search, you can just Google the site, right? And just see, hey, how is it indexed? Then Siteliner looks for duplicate content and so on. So you see there's a whole lot of tools that you can, that in my case, what I do is I run them through all these tools. So it gives me an idea of if there's still stuff that needs to be done. And sometimes it's not part of the quote, right? Like, but it's also a nice way to generate future work, right? Because like when you finish up the project, you tell the client, okay, everything we just discussed is done. Here's your website. And then you do next steps. And then you just see what these tools find for you. And you tell the client, hey, we should perhaps sit down and look into this a little bit more because that's going to improve your ranking or whatnot, right? And then you can see if you can generate any more work out of that. Why is this bold now? What happened? Okay. Oh, yeah, because I pressed Control B. Yeah, that explains a lot. Handover. Yeah, so I do a handover, and then if they want to do their own blog, for instance, right, I sit them down and I train them. I tell them, hey, this is what metadata is, and this is how you put it in. This is why you should write an excerpt for your blog post, and these are the switches you need to flip, all that stuff. And then monitoring, you just spend 2 hours, or in my case, I do that like over the next 1 or 2 weeks, 5 minutes a day or 5 minutes every other day. Just look at is how well is the website indexed? Is there anything I need to clear or like work a little bit on? And then yeah, cool. So this is the main thing, and then down here I can unwrap this. It's like construction work on staging. Like for instance, if the client wants me to add 4 pages to the website and a form, right, or a new form or something, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to do that on a live website. It's a big thing. I'm going to move your site to a staging, so I can start calculating the hours for that here. And then down here is just additional deliverables. I am a fairly decent semi-professional photographer. Also, it just goes back to my time working as a journalist. I learned a bunch of stuff there. And then in Montreal, I worked for an organization where I did a lot of photos in a bar. So I can do photography for my clients, is what I'm trying to say here. Test environment, installing of a website clone for secure manipulation, all the different stuff here, right? Plugin research, what are the installs plugin for? Yeah, for instance, if I take a website from somebody else, right, and it has 58 plugins, then I need to go through them, and I'm like, okay, I know rank math, and I know Yoast, and I know they don't both need to be there, but what's this plugin? What's this plugin? Then I need to do my research and all that. Of course, is also like if you just look at it and you see, oh fuck, there's 58 plugins, then you already know that you're going to be spending 3 hours on that, right? So you can put that in your quote. And media optimization. Yeah, we all know that clients like to upload 25 megabytes PNG files. So we need to kind of go through. I actually remember once I went to on the server with SFTP. I downloaded the whole WP content uploads folder. And then I took a batch processing program and I just put all the JPEGs in there. And I just let that program run once and it just scaled them to 2000 pixels long side and 70% JPEG. And then I just re-uploaded. But of course, still it took time, right? Because then it's like there's so many JPEGs and then they're sorted into folders by year and then by month. So you need to go through that all. And yeah, that was a lot of work. So I put that in here for the future approval review with clients and prepare to go live. and so on. So there's a bunch of stuff here you can still put into the quote as a follow up or an add on. So now now we've gone through the process. EWWW and EasyIO are great. That's true, Max. Actually, on WordPress itself, I'm using WP Optimize, which has Smoosh integrated into it. So it provides database cleanup, it provides caching, minification, gzip compression, all of the good stuff that you need for your caching, and then it has image optimization built in as well. So really nice tool for that. And WPASE, yeah, that's true. Admin and site enhancements can also just prevent people from uploading big files in the first place. Now, what else can we do with this tool, or what else do I do with this tool? So first of all, hang on, Mark, questions? Anything?
I think we're good.
Yeah? Nice. Let's see. I'm going to need to drink a little bit of tea. See if Maxime, if you're in the audience.
Mute the mic.
Yeah, hang on. I'm just going to mute. If he's watching this later.
I think we'll have some questions after we get to this part here, because this is kind of the roll up piece.
Oh yeah,
I think it's gonna all come together here. So
yeah. So obviously, I like what I do with the client. I go through all of this with them in 5 minutes, not whatever we just did, 45 minutes. So I just like, hey, we have these 3 phases. Here are some of the steps, and then I just like, you can see that we need we need market analysis. We don't need that. We don't need that. UX design. I just really gloss over it, but I want them to see, hey, this is what needs to be done, right? Let's bring this up a little bit again for people watching on their phones. Implementation and so on. So I tell them, and then in the end, I also tell them, you're gonna get a breakdown with my quote, and I'm gonna, everything I showed you here, I'm gonna work out how long this is actually gonna take. So I'm gonna sit down at home with everything we've discussed today, and I'm gonna put the numbers in here, right? And then we're gonna see how much time this takes. So we go to 90. Then let's see, I get rid of, I think, all of this here. So this, first of all, that's what we're going to look into through in a moment. I can put this away as well. Actually, I may even put this away. Yeah, pretty much. Okay, I press Control P and go margins narrow. I put a timestamp on it down here, and then I print the whole thing as a PDF, and that's what the client gets. Like, I attach it to the quote for them, so they see, hey, everything we just discussed is here as a breakdown, as an hour's breakdown, right? What I don't give the client, of course, is this part over here. So what this does is it tells me how much this is going to cost. So let's bring this up again a little. 125. So here I actually have both in here, right? I have a switch in here where I can switch to 2S, which is the company I work for, and then I can put the hourly price in here. So my hourly price is 90 euros. And so it calculates, or it counts how many tasks are in this project anyway, right? Like, let's say, let's open this again. Yeah. No, wait, where's the status thing? Hello? It's messing with me. It's messing with me. Let's go back to the beginning. I want to reset this to normal anyway. Okay, there. Okay. So let's say this, whatever task this is, let's say the whole market analysis is not something we're going to do, right? Then it tells me, yeah, now you only have 48. Before it was 49, right? So it counts that for me. Then if I have a task that's already done, then it counts that for me. If I have a task that's ongoing, then it counts that. And how many tasks still need to be done. Then I have the projected hours. So everything, it just counts how many hours I have in column F. So the project's going to be 51.50 hours. It tells me how many hours have I already done or started doing. So I get a rough idea of, hey, how much of this work is already done, or at least getting done. And then it tells me how much work is really still yet to do. And then this is all grayed out because there are formulas in here, but this field is not grayed out because I can type in it, because I can go into ClickUp and I can be like, hey, I've already invested, I'm already 26 hours into this project. So we have 24 hours left until I start running out of budget, right? And then, which is what I, depending on the client, sometimes I do that. I feel like whenever I do a project, there's time that I'm going to be spending just stumbling around and not knowing stuff and trying to figure it out myself and going in the wrong direction, having to undo it, go back. And I sometimes I tell my clients, hey, I don't think it's fair to charge you for all of this bumbling around, right? And I know with this project, there's going to be a lot of stuff that is really unclear. So we have to put in a whole bunch of buffer. It's going to be more expensive because of that, but I'm also going to knock down a little bit, right? So you can say, hey, I'm going to do -2 hours, right? Because that's just going to be money I pay for learning, right? It's just my tuition fee. And then it gives me the price times 90, right? It multiplies times 90 and puts 10% service fee on top of that, right? So we're at 535 euros service fee. So the whole thing is going to cost almost 6K, right? So that's how you come up with your numbers. And then we have the options here, right? Like if I say, hey, this thing might actually take longer if the client also wants service X on top of that, I put this here. And then it tells me, okay, we have 9 hours more, 810 euros on top of that, right? So that's how I know my price. Obviously, still, you can, like, there's different ways of selling, right? Like you can say, and Mark, you can jump in here because you might be doing this differently, but you can say, hey, I'm going to charge the client for hours, or I'm just going to charge the client for value, right? That's the other thing. In which case, you could still say, hey, this thing is just worth a lot, even if it doesn't take me very long. It's like looking at our market, that's how much it's worth, or just looking at the benefit that you get out of it as a client, that's how much it's worth. So that's clearly one thing you can do, in which case you don't really necessarily need this whole calculation, but it still, I feel, gives you a good sort of idea where you're heading with your project, right? And especially if you put in like with putting in the management fee and all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, yes. I mean, I definitely want to hit on that. I mean, to go back on it, guys, if you have any questions, I think we have a
Yeah,
couple
go
that
ahead.
we hit on here. But I like, so now that we've kind of seen the process, we've seen the whole, everything that you got there as far as like, kind of what you put together after discovery meeting, kind of what you show them, and then ultimately like the wrap up here for yourself. To comment on that, I do think, see, I have like an interesting perspective on this. I do think that I think what you're showing there on the right hand sidebar is vital, because regardless of if we're solopreneurs or if we ever had like employees or anything like that, or contractors, I do think the easiest way to understand your business is kind of by the hour, so to speak, or by some level of time, like that hourly based pricing thing, because it's very understandable, because most people think of, an employee would be maybe like a 40-hour work week if it was a full time or something like that. It's just kind of how, I feel like the business world sort of is by default in a way. Obviously, people get paid salary and stuff like that, but I feel like understanding the time that goes into something is very important. Can you understand the time and also not charge directly hourly 100%? So I think there's definitely, a conversation to be had there. I think with what you're doing here, though, it definitely does make sense. Like you kind of just, you have an idea of your process. You put you associate number of hours, you multiply the number of hours times, what you want to get paid per hour, and then you get that. I mean, what you could do, maybe what I've seen is, I like the management fee. You could do, more of that. Like you could do, I guess, like extra different, kind of to assign more value, maybe like different types of, I don't want to call them fees, but like other value like type things. If you're, the one question I have is, and maybe we'll get to this, or maybe it's like slightly a tangential thing, is this is what we're seeing, or this is what, our peers would be seeing if they took this template and did this, right? They see this breakdown.
Yeah.
What is your, you don't need to pull one of these up necessarily, but what does your quote look like though? Like, does it just say number of hours for this much, or does it have just one price on it, or
Yeah.
like literally just one number on it, or what do you normally do there? Because that's a different part of the conversation that I feel like is also vitally important.
That's true. Yeah. I don't mind pulling one up. I just had another thought, or perhaps let's just get into one question that we have here from Klaus
Yeah.
Morlock. He says, I'm asking myself how you realize a project in 25 hours, sticking to your whole process. Well, this whole process obviously can't be squeezed into 25 hours no matter what you do. But I can, like, for instance, that whole rebuild or a simple one pager, right? There's a whole lot of stuff that I can set to NA, right? I can be like, hey, no keywords, no, doesn't, like, we know the architecture, right? It's already set, and we don't need mood boards for this. It's already, we're just rebuilding it one by one or something like that, right? So the more you set to NA, obviously, then the cheaper it's going to get. So there's ways of landing below 25 hours. But even that one pager that I showed you earlier, the dentist thing where I showed you the mood board and then the Figma thing, if you go to drbrade.de, hang on a second, it's actually a pretty new one. Here it is, right? So that's the actual person. And like, I went in and did a photo session for them and all that. And even this, it is just a one pager. I think that was more than 25. Let me double check. Easy, at least 30. Let me see.
Interesting. Yeah, because I think it's two different things, right? Like, I mean, we
30
could
hours.
be 30 hours. Gotcha. We could be in the back end, and we could be like doing all this process stuff and like saying how much time it's going to take us. But then when you get that number at the end, this, and I'm not saying I necessarily have a solution for this. It's just like, I feel like with bigger projects, and I also I have a comment on that too, but like, as the numbers continue to go up, like the line item at the bottom, the total number that you show your client, as that number gets larger, I feel like most clients, from my experience, they want to see some level of a breakdown as to
That's right.
like what you're doing. Now, it doesn't have to be line itemed like that. You don't need to put the number of hours in the thing on everything, but maybe at least, do you do it maybe by phase, perhaps?
Mm.
Like, this is how much for the discovery phase, this is how much for this, and then here's all the deliverables in there, and we're not going to tell you exactly. You don't need to know necessarily how much each literal row in Excel costs, but that's kind of where I feel like, I think a lot of people in our industry, they kind of like, that's where it breaks down a little bit, because that's the actual like quoting process, or like selling it necessarily. Like, all
Yeah.
this is to this point is great stuff. I feel it comes a little more natural though, especially after you've done a few projects, because you know how long things are taking, and you definitely want to make sure you're not spending way too much time on a given project.
I'm just looking up my quote. I don't think this one gives away any sensitive information. Just going to take a second here.
Yep. Yep. While you're reviewing that, Max says, well, there are clients who want to get all the details, and then there's other clients who say, you're the expert, you know what you're doing, you're my web guy now. I mean, that's definitely another piece of the puzzle too. Depends on how, I guess, intimately they want to know about your process, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so here I just deleted a bunch of stuff out of that. So basically, what I have, this is LibreOffice. I'm a Linux user, so, but obviously you can do this in any. Like, what I'm saying is, I'm using Word and Excel. it's like I'm still stuck in the 90s there. And I really need to find some time to move to more, like in Germany here we have LexOffice, which is a really nice tool for all the bookkeeping and CRM and all that stuff. And for, like, it feels like I'm using duct tape and WD-40, but yeah,
Whatever works, man.
yeah. For now, it still works exactly. So the quote is sort of like a. First of all, it has this whole title page, and it says quote, and then whatever the name of the quote, what's going to be built, and then I tell them, I kind of narrate what I know about the project, right? I tell them, hey, dear Mrs. Mister, thanks for being interested in this, and here's what we're going to do. This is about a relaunch of your website. This is your current situation. We talk about where are you, where do you want to be, our goals, right? What do we want to achieve with this project? What kinds of challenges do we have there? Like, are we going to lose SEO rankings by turning a 17 pager into a one pager, for instance? Then our approach to it, by using market research, we're going to identify search terms and whatnot. Then we talk about milestones, deadlines. So I say, hey, we got 3 phases, and I want to finish phase 1 in January, and then phase 3, the full launch, is going to be in April or whatnot. And then, as far as the price is concerned, obviously these are all just bogus numbers, but I just go, this is the project, and the price is according to the attached hours breakdown, and what we discussed above. And then on the final page, I even do a looking forward or into the future type of thing, like next steps after this. What could we do next? Right? I give them a
Smart.
little bit of a teaser. I'm like, hey, I have a service plan. You might want to sign up for that. And that's the quote. And then
Okay.
what I give them is everything that I just told you guys. I like, if you go to brandartery.com, obviously this is just in German. Prozessdokumentation, right? I tell them, hey, I have this link here. You can click here, and you get a 17-page PDF where everything like, here. There's examples, like, this is what an shitty open graph, good open graph. This is what a Google snippet is, and this is why you need one, right? This is what a shitty Google snippet is. So it's basically the whole education, the whole shebang. Nobody's ever going to read this. Let's be honest here. Like, nobody reads this. But the point of this is, well, for me, the point is, hey, I want to write all this down because first of all, I was excited about it. I mean, I love my job, but secondly, it's, for me, it's also, if you write something down, it stays in your head better, right? So it helps you kind of have everything in one place. And even sometimes I sometimes open it and I'm like, there was a way I used to do this. Hang on, how did I wrote this down, and then I can look it up myself. But I give clients a link to that, and I'm like, if you guys want, here's everything you need to know. There's the whole documentation. So I attach that as well. And yeah, and that's kind of and then plus whatever my lawyer, all that stuff, like the terms and conditions and all that shit, is attached to the quote. And that's how I send it out.
So what's that say right there, real quick? The, like, you just kind of give one, the pricing breakdown. Is it just one,
Yeah,
basically one
exactly.
number?
Like, they get this document. Yeah, exactly. This here is just this one number, right? This is
Gotcha.
pretty much the number that I determined from the Excel thing, and then I can say, hey, you get a package. What's rabatt in English? Tell me, Mark. Tell me.
Tax.
Discount, package discount.
Awesome.
Exactly. A package discount, and then whatever taxes and stuff like that, right? So there we go. Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's
Okay.
that.
I would say, I mean, just my thoughts on that is, I think that looks like super professional and stuff, and I love the PDF thing that, again, we all know kind of
Thank you.
probably nobody's going to read, but I do think that you pack a lot of that information there. People do start to know and feel like you know exactly what you're talking about. Feel like you're an authority
Yeah.
and expert in this space. So I definitely think there's a lot there. Two thoughts that I would have is, and I mean, I'm not saying these are the right ways to do it, but two thoughts that I would have is, for the quoting process, if you do start to, like, if you're out there and you're starting to sell websites that are, I don't know. I mean, I would say, I got to talk to you a different question. I want to bring up a different question about different economies, because I don't know enough about anything outside the United States. But if you're selling websites that are, like, from my perspective, like higher than 5, 10, 15, like when you start going over 10 specifically, I feel like I've lost deals because I was too vague in what I was telling them. Like,
Hmm.
if it's a smaller project, it makes sense. So that would be the first thing, like vaguety in, like, what they're pricing for, or what the price is about, and where they're paying and all that sort of stuff. Sometimes I just end up getting pushed back and be like, hey, yeah, like, you literally quoted us $50,000 for this, and you just gave us a price. You know what I mean? Like you didn't like say
Yeah,
like the
without.
breakdown of like different things, at least like the stages or the phases. So that's like one thing just to keep in mind, like as the numbers continue to go up, I would say for people. The
Mhm.
second thing though, and I'm interested to get your thoughts on this, is so you build the website and you put the time and energy into doing that, and the process is great and tight there for the most part. And then do you? It looks like in your quote though, like at least standard, do you kind of make it seem like the web care plan, like the hosting and maintenance is completely optional? Like you don't have a line in there for it's like, hey, this is how much this is, and like how does that normally go? What's been your experience with that? Like how many of your clients would you say you actually do end up like hosting and like putting on a care plan, so to speak?
At this point, pretty much everybody. Like I've
Okay.
recently started just telling them during the meeting, your website needs care, and
Mm-hmm.
if you don't, like, I don't go like, if you don't do this, it's gonna explode. But I'm kind of,
Yeah.
I tell them in more gentle words that if they don't pick the care plan, then here's the list of the tools you need to license for this website
Mm-hmm.
to run. And like, hey,
Yeah.
here's, you need to buy bricks, you need to buy ACSS, you need to buy AT, you need to buy this and that and that.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, that
Yeah.
helps. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of people that I always see in like the communities, and they're asking like how to sell care plans, how to sell more things. I think they're just
Mm,
thinking, and a lot of people are just thinking in terms of one and done deals where they just sell the website, get the money, and then they're done. And
mm,
I think that that's a big thing that I've just always done it instinctually. Like when I put a quote together, it's like one page. There's like stuff like you said, like obviously like definitely give the breakdown, everything like that. But think of it like the two pricing pages or two pricing sections. There's this is how much this is going to cost to build this thing. That's a
mm,
one-time fee, plus or minus anything additional or whatever, obviously. But like, this is how much you could expect to pay one time or, in installments. And then the next page, like the following pricing section is this is your website care plan pricing. And it's, 99, 199, 299, whatever it is,
mm.
whatever your packages are. But like, I always position it as like, listen, I mean, I would if you really wanted me to, I would build it and I would deploy it to whatever you want. But that's not what I recommend whatsoever, because the
Yeah,
state of WordPress, the state of the tools we normally use, it's not like that. They do need regular maintenance, updates,
that's
security,
right.
stuff like that. So it's like it's almost a non-negotiable for me for most of the time, because I want to build a relationship with these people, and I like recurring revenue, sure, but it's also like almost necessary in a lot of ways. So
Yeah,
I always say, like, I've always done that, where it's just the second pricing section is just bang, just like this is what I'd recommend, or here are the three packages, or something like that.
exactly. I kind of do that. Well, first of all, like I said, I tell them during the sales pitch, listen, if I think what you said about relationships and partnership is incredibly important. And for me,
Mm-hmm.
I actually have empathy as part of my slogan. Like, it's in there. Like, I do web design, photography, and empathy, because I really feel like if I work with somebody, I want to have a good relationship with them, and I want to feel like what I'm doing, I'm part of this project. I'm part of their project. This is my project now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's no longer yours; it's mine now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but and I want my clients to feel that. I want my clients to feel like, hey, this dude is loyal, because we all know those stories. We all have clients coming to us or leads coming to us saying, hey, the dude's gone that used to do my website. He just left, and now I'm sitting here with a website that I don't have access to, or whatnot. Right? That's incredibly common, and I don't know if this is just in our industry, but I kind of feel like it's because Elementor is like anybody can build a website. I feel like there's a whole bunch of people who are like, hey, I'm gonna get Elementor and then I can sell websites, and then they sell three things and then they realize, fuck, this is a job, and then they run away. And then the clients are sitting there, with nothing, or like a website that they can't use. So I make it early on. I make it very clear that I still have my clients from back in 2015, 2016, and there are some clients that were like they never needed anything else, so they never got back to me, which is fine. And of course, there's also a couple of clients that kind of moved on to somebody else. But in most cases, I create relationships here. We create partnerships, and we're going to be partners, and I'm going to be there for you guys for the long run. And that, yeah, and like you say, that includes maintenance and taking care of the website, right? It also means constant optimization. So what I do is I send them a link to my blog post here, and I regularly kind of make small changes to the blog post so it always stays up to date. But it's not very long. It just gives a bunch of intros like, hey, what could happen to your website? It could go kaput, it could be hacked, whatnot. And then this is what you get. You get security, you get backups daily, you get hosting if you want. In most cases, I try to get people on my NetGup account. You get the updates, and I tell them, hey, you have a phone. You know that your phone always needs updates. You know that your Windows computer always needs updates. It's the same with the website. This is like we're living in 2025. Then constant optimizations, because like if something comes out that's better than something I've been using until then I'm gonna deploy that, right? And that's part of the website, just grows with the times, right? And then support, like if you need anything like up to 30 minutes a month, it's just included in the care plan, right? So yeah.
How do you I want to talk about, I think this is important. Like, so the vibe that I get is, and I think the vibe anybody would get, hopefully a client obviously even too, is if you look at this extensive list of things that, you know, like we'll call them like, you know, line item deliverables, so to speak, you know, varying and, you know, in what you have to do and everything like that. It would appear to me that you know what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like you've put together this, you have a ton of things here. Talk to me about specifically from the solopreneur side, not like the contractor side. From the solopreneur side, talk to me about how you feel and your experience with this. When I look at it, I feel like it's an extensive process. It's probably one that you know pretty well, but it's an extensive process and it is meticulous, and it does seem to hit all the, like, check all the boxes, so to speak, that, like, you know, professionals need. There's obviously varying degrees of professionals. There's beginners, there's more seasoned people. You've been doing this for a long time. I feel like you're pretty, you know, deep, obviously, in the, you know, towards the expert side of that spectrum. So, like, is there anything at play regarding, if you mostly do websites like German websites, is there anything at play economy wise with like 90 an hour and like ultimately the amount of money you're charging for these websites? Because I think one objection that I would see a lot is, you know, like that's a lot of work for the amount of money or for the hourly rate, you know, ultimately what the final number comes out to. Because like you think about it, like that's a lot of hours. That's like 40 plus hours. If it's a side hustle, like how long does a typical website project actually take to complete, versus how many you could actually do in a year? And again, it's different for everybody, because some people are, you know, also doing, you know, like contract work or like, you know, like an actual like job in addition to it. But if we take that out of the mix for a second and just think about, if you were trying to be a solopreneur and just a solopreneur, what does that actually look like? Do you think you would affect your prices a little bit more, because you're not taking that home, right? Like, I mean, you got to pay taxes on it.
Exactly.
So it's like, how do you feel about all that? How's that been?
Well, it's all in my offshore account, so
there you go.
no problem there. I think it's probably worth more than I'm charging. I'm not gonna lie. I still have some leftover imposter syndrome. And I guess we all do, but I probably should be charging more. So that's a really simple, I guess, disarming answer. But also, if you just look at how much do web designers cost in Germany, like the hourly rates are somewhere, they fluctuate between, I think, 70 and 120. So I'm fairly in the middle there. Obviously, it's like there's deluxe people who are worth much more, and then there's like very cheap people. But I'm at a point where this is sort of the amount that gets me a comfortable life, first of all, and especially with this being a side hustle. But if I were to quit my job and do this full time, then first of all the price would need to go up. And then secondly, I'd obviously be doing a whole lot of other things as well to do for lead gen, right? The other thing that I tell my clients pretty early on is just that I do this as a side hustle. So if they need it done tomorrow, then they need to find somebody who can invest 8 hours a day into this, right? Not just the amount of hours that I have per week. I don't know, like 10 per week or something, or 20 perhaps. depending, right? Yeah. So I've lost some leads for that simple reason, that they were like, yeah, I need this fast, and I was like, well then, sorry, it's not
Yeah.
happening. Give me a positive review on YouTube for
Mhm.
the way I because people, they always feel very well cared for the time that I speak to them, even if they go with somebody else.
Yeah.
They always, like, this is clearly one thing I get out of that, of doing it this way. They feel like I've educated them quite well, and that it was really helpful to get a better understanding of what it takes. I also, I tell clients that, and this is genuinely what I feel. I want people to not buy things from shysters. So I tell them, hey, this is what our craft entails, right? Also, I mean, there's stuff in here that's missing. Like, there's stuff in here that's not in here, right? Because again, like, there's not everything. I can't do everything, and
Right.
I'm blessed at this point to have a nice network. I have you in my network. I have guys that I know, that we know in my network, like Brandon, and but also here in Germany, right? And through Kevin's inner circle, I've met a whole lot of really interesting people that I regularly hang out with, and that have skills that I don't, right?
Mhm.
So I don't know how I got to this, but anyway, it's I want my clients to, or my potential clients or whatnot, people that I talk to make the right decisions. So I educate them so they can then choose, if they choose somebody else, that they don't pick somebody who's shitty, right?
Right. No, it's a
Yeah,
good thing. I mean, education is such a huge part of what we're doing here because
yeah.
the clients, a lot of times, they just don't know. They feel like they need a website, and that's kind of another thing that parlays off what we were just talking about. There is, so I've had this issue. I wonder if anybody in the audience has had this issue, and I'm going to pose the question to you, Maddie. Is the Have you ever had, when you're going through, you have a client come to you and like, hey, we need a website, or we need a
Mhm.
website redesign, something like that. So you have that initial conversation, then you put together something like this. They come back with the price. Hopefully you've bracketed it earlier, so like they kind of don't get shocked by that and all that sort of stuff. Da da da. But the point that I'm making, or the one question that I want to have, that I've always struggled with is, and I've tried to do some different things now because of it, is in our industry of building websites, just that part right there, right? We know that there's inherently value in that. We know that, just having a presence online, if you don't have one, is super valuable. It depends on where the business is like at in their life cycle, but there's a lot of like variables there. The long and short of it is, do you ever present a price, we'll say, like, just somewhere in like the $5,000 to $10,000 range, or whatever the calculator spits out?
Mhm.
Do you ever have an issue and objections, and how do you deal with them, if so, of the objection of they just can't see the ROI in what we're providing, like as website designers? Now, obviously, there's buzzwords around like the SEO, pay per click
Mhm.
ads or whatever, but those to me are like more specific ROI, tangible in a way. They're not perfectly tangible, but it's like, if I spend money on SEO, my idea is I'm going to get more leads. If I spend money on pay per click, I'm going to get a certain amount of like impressions, clicks, throughs, whatever. And like all that is kind of like formulaic. I found that in web design specifically, the only deliverable ultimately is a website, which inherently, there is some value to, for sure, but it's not super ROI focused, or like it's just a
Yeah,
little more intangible there. Have you ever had to deal with any of that? What are those conversations like, or just like, what's your any thoughts on that?
I haven't had that conversation.
Really?
Funnily enough, like, what if I guide clients through this,
Mm-hmm.
the reaction is always, yeah, I totally see why it costs what it costs. And it's usually me who ends up kind of pushing this. Oh, Jamie's here. Hey, Jamie, nice to see you.
Hey, Jamie.
Um, you can tape it and rewatch it later. We can send you
VHS.
the tape. We're taping it, and if you give us your address, we're sending it. Um, so it's me who brings up, hey, you also want to consider that you want to be seen. And you don't just want a website, right? You want to be seen in your town. And then I tell them, hey, look, I just Googled dentist Griftel, right? And this dude is in the first spot. and then there's 5 other dudes in spots 2 to 7, and then there's like a portal, right? So we want to beat the dude in the first spot because the other ones, they didn't do their homework. Their websites are shit, but this guy really knows what he did. So we want to be number one, and this is the guy we need to get past, right? And then I get them into that mindset. It's like, hey, you need to put in the legwork, and I need to put in the legwork, but also I tell them, hey, this is also your job, right? Because SEO doesn't start. It's not like we flick the switch. And funnily enough, I'm sure we've all had that, right? You do post the website, you launch it, and then they Google themselves like the next day, and they were like, "Why am I not? Like, I can't find myself." Or like, I Googled dentist my town, and I'm not in page one, and I'm like, "Have you listened to what I told you?" So it's usually me. Like, I haven't run yet into clients. It might also be that just I'm not I'm not in the niche where these clients are that have this thing licked and understand it. But the ones I speak to are usually, I'm the one trying to educate them that, hey, you need to be visible online, and you need to kind of beat the competition there in order to get that ROI, that your website also just works for you and brings in, business. So that's been my experience with that.
Interesting.
But I'm sure,
Yeah.
like, if you reach different target audiences, as you evolve and reach higher paying or higher quality, I wouldn't say higher quality, it's the wrong word, but more discerning and more experienced target audiences, that, for instance, if it's a company that has its own marketing department, right, then there's people in there who know all that stuff, and that are going to ask you those questions. And but I haven't had them yet.
Yeah, there's just too many, almost like different
Yeah.
types of clients that we could potentially run into. I'm assuming sounds like a lot of the clients that you've dealt with, and correct me if I'm wrong, are they like more established almost? Do they have like the
Oftentimes they are. Yeah.
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 See, that's like huge because if they're already established, then they're obviously like profitable, so to speak, like just like super simplified. They're
Hmm.
obviously profitable. They're making money as like a dentist or whatever established business, and they've been possibly either like not reliant at all or completely offline. They haven't been not reliant on online presence or completely offline. I had this is what the one that prompted me to make that live stream a year ago about the $10,000 websites thing. That was
Right.
like an established business, in business for 50 years, didn't care about, like, just had a simple like Wix website, came in, and we were just like, yeah, just via referral, and I was like, yeah, let's do something great here, and it's like just way better for them now. So those are the types of clients that I try to target as best as I can, because I've had the most success. Because when you target like somebody with, and it's no shade against people that are just starting with no money, it's very difficult to actually do something good for them, because it's a hard deal to craft, and a quote to
Yeah.
craft, because to make money, a lot of times you need to spend some money, right? And like, we're in
That's
the
right.
business of like creating opportunities for people to level up their lead gen, or increase their brand awareness and those types of things. And when they don't have the money at the very outset of it, I think Kevin said it recently, it's like they don't necessarily need a website right away, or if they do,
Yeah.
it needs to be extremely basic. It's
I
like that's
linked
not the best use of their funds.
I linked two of Kevin's videos in the description that you guys should really watch, where he goes into that. That
Yep.
your job is not to sell them a website. Your job is to be a consultant. And if consultant means advising them not to get a website at this point because they're just not there, right?
Yep.
Then it might be better for them to just get one or two or three, depending if they have several locations. Google, like, business profiles, right? Could be that. Could be that that's the advice, and that's something like you charge them, I don't know, 100 or whatnot, to sit down with them for an hour, or 200 for 2 hours, and just explain to them, hey, this is how you build that thing, how you make that thing. Teach them everything there is to know about making a Google business profile, which is really not rocket science, and then just have them do that, and guide them through that, support them.
Yeah.
Could be
100%.
the right way.
Yeah. If you guys have any more questions, let us know. I think we're coming close to time here. I do need to definitely jump by the
Same here.
top
Same
of
here.
the
Actually, I
hour.
think this is also good. point to, unless people have questions, we could wrap it up here. I think the last thing we need to do, let's see. Curtis, really responsible take. Thanks, Curtis. Thank you very much. One more thing. So first of all, I'm going to post the link to this in the description, and in the first comment, I'm going to pin it. Secondly, if you guys want to tinker around with this, I mean, most of you are probably adept with Excel or Google Sheets, which is Excel. But one thing that's kind of clunky about this, unfortunately, is like if you want to add a line, right? You go here, you insert one row above, then you fuck up this, right? So in order to add an extra line, it becomes a little bit more difficult. Like you kind of need to take all of these all the way down to the last line, just copy them, and just move them all one step down, right? And then you kind of need to find out if these formulas still work. Like this formula just broke, right? Because now it's not calculating this anymore. So what I put a little bit of a helper in there. If you go to View, Show Formulas, then first of all, you see all the stuff that has formulas in it. So you know which formulas do I need to not break if I want to add content here, right? Or if I just want to remove a line, same thing, right? You can copy out of this and then just copy it up one step. That's the first thing. And then you click on everything, right click, conditional formatting, and you take the last custom formatting, conditional formatting rule, and you apply it to A1 to A1000, 1000. No, wait, 1 to the whole thing, right? Oh, for fuck's sake. Delete. Are you kidding? Anyway, yeah, there we go. There. That wasn't so hard. And then it just shows you where the formulas are, right?
That's pretty cool.
Right. So you just need to apply this custom format, this conditional formatting that I've already prepared to the whole sheet. And then that's it. And then also, I never end up using this. Oh, yeah, by the way. So for me, this, I use ClickUp to really just do my time tracking and all that. But I would say at like 2 or 3 points during the project, I go here and then I'm like, and then I just fill this in retroactively. I'm like, oh yeah, I've done this. Oh, this still needs to be done. I could put like a warning thing here, right? And then I can put a note here. So I use it to, this is not my main project tracker, but it helps me to just at 4 or 5 milestones during the project, just to keep an eye on, am I still on track? Am I doing everything that I set out to do in this project, right? And in the end, there was another thing I wanted to show. I don't know.
You should make a dedicated video just on all the intricacies of this, not necessarily going through it, but just the
yeah, perhaps
little formatting and stuff. There's a bunch of Easter eggs in here.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, there's a whole bunch of formulas for sure. I mean, this formula is the one that's kind of annoying because, yeah, it just calculates, right? If I go to View, Show, Not Formulas, it tells me I've got around 20 hours in phase 1, right? In just phase 1, and then plus 5 hours of options. So, yeah. And then if you add or remove stuff, you just need to make sure that this formula still is okay, right? So you will probably, if you tinker around with this, if you adapt it to your own needs, you're going to have to dig through some formulas. And I hope that the conditional formatting and this View, Show formulas, that this makes it a little easier to keep track of that. Yeah.
Sweet.
Hey, if I remember the thing I still wanted to say, I'm going to post about it in the comments.
Nice.
Cool. Questions, thoughts, ideas? Let's see what people say. Anya says, thanks. Anya, we need to record the next video. Anya and I are doing a video series about Proforms, BricsForge Proforms. We're building a really complex online ordering form. And I highly recommend watching it. Anya is a fantastic partner here. I've learned a lot actually just by working together with her. It's great. So just waiting for you. Yeah, she's right. Um, just a quick shout out here to Anya. And then we have Jamie saying, I watched the replay. Thank you guys. Marcus, very interesting. Thank you. Yeah. Well, thanks so much for being here. Wonderful. I'm glad you guys got some value out of this. This is all I wanted. So, well, that and the subscribers, of course. and, and Mark, thank you so much for taking time out of your
Absolutely. Thanks
busy
for having me,
schedule.
man.
I look forward to more. Should we do a quick announcement about Thursday? We should do a quick announcement about Thursday.
Yeah, we should. We should
So,
let it out right here.
yeah. Last Thursday was a pretty crazy day. Let me bring it up actually. Because last Thursday was not just the release. Well, there was the release of Bricks 1.12, and then there was the release of Buildarius beta 1.0, something like that, or big beta version that is landed on the WordPress repo. And Buildarius is a new builder that has been raising some eyebrows in the past. Like I've been hearing about it for a while now. And on Thursday at 5 p.m. CET, which is 11 a.m. mark time, we are going to have Elvis and Kevin on Bridge Builders.
Yeah.
Here, I've got it. I'm going to bring it on my screen. Live page building. Yeah. So they're going to join us, and Elvis is going to show off Buildarius, and Kevin is going to show off Bricks, and they're going to be building websites, web designs using both builders. So we get to see, first of all, how the builders work, what can be done with them, but also how experienced professionals work with these builders. Because the point of Bridge Builders of our live show is to have different people on to show off different builders. And oops, what did I just do? Yeah, wrong window. And just to give people the opportunity to see different builders and different workflows and kind of compare and learn a little bit about that. And it's going to be live, so you guys are going to be able to join us in the conversation on YouTube and learn, talk, discuss. And there's another episode of Bridge Builders coming up very soon after that, because should we mention? How much should we mention?
We could tease, maybe just
little
like
tease.
why, just
tease,
like why.
Because there was another big release on last Thursday that's going to be part of the next episode after that. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, look out for more info there.
Indeed. All right, folks. Thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody out there in the world. It's great to have you guys along. And we'll see you soon.
Yep.
Bye.